What is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here, and welcome to the Nebula Music Podcast, a show where I explore the musician mindset by talking to some of today's most exciting musicians, and basically anyone who's doing something really cool in the music industry. I want to talk to all of them and really try and understand their mindset and approach to music, and today is no exception because I have the very talented TIM Henson of POLYPHIA joining me on this show. And let me tell you something, I am very excited for this interview because it's definitely not like one that I've done before. Most of the time, I try and focus on understanding how someone stays inspired and how someone stays motivated. And while TIM Henson did an amazing job of explaining his mindset and how he stays motivated, we had a very fun conversation about a lot of other things. And definitely the thing that stood out to me the most about Tim is how unapologetic he is about his personality and how he owns what he believes in it. And I think that's absolutely amazing. I'm really excited to share this interview with you guys. Now, at the end of the episode, if you like what you heard, definitely consider subscribing because I do this every week. As much as I possibly can, I try to bring on the best musicians on this show to really understand their mindset. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. All right, what is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here again, and I'm very excited today because I have a very talented musician joining me on the show. And every time I get someone really talented on the show, I get really intimidated because their skill is just on mountains above me and what I can do. I have Mr. TIM Henson joining me on the show, man. How are you, man?
I am very good. How are you, my friend?
I am doing really good. I'm excited to have you on because, I mean, like I mentioned a little earlier, whenever I watch you play guitar on YouTube or any of the videos that I've seen you play, I'm just blown away at how good you are, man. Like, how'd you get so good?
I'm actually pretty terrible in comparison to like the caliber of people that we play with. I think we're actually one of the worst bands.
Why do you say that?
But it's sick because because we actually are just fucking awful. But it's really sick because people fuck with it. We're kind of almost like the SoundCloud rappers of what we do, like in the sense that, like, you know, it's just bad, but people fuck with it. So I will gladly fill those shoes. We're kind of at this point now where it's just like, hey, like, we will be drunk for our show and we will fuck shit up. And that is what you are paying for, and get used to it now because, like, it's not going to stop. Like, we're just going to keep doing it. And that's just how it is. So
I love it.
We're kind of embracing it at this point. We're not really hiding it anymore.
Well, can I ask you, like, was that something that you guys have always done as a band? Like, when you started playing live or when you guys formed, was that always the intention to kind of be? Oh,
God, no. We wanted to be really good. I think that's every band's goal, is to be very good. But, you know, we just, I feel like we're always just like burning the candle from both ends of the stick. And just like always, I don't know, there's just too much shit going on all the time. So, like, when it comes to the actual performance, which is the most important part of being in a band, you know, we're just making do with what we can. And we've found that it's better to stress less about it.
Yeah.
We used to really care, like, oh, dude, like, we suck. We should really try to be better. At this point, it's just like, fuck it. Let's, you know, get drunk and have fun. Because the shows go off, the crowds go crazy. And I enjoy my job a lot more when we just don't care as much. It's just a lot more fun.
I love that.
And then honestly, the performance ends up being better when we're like not stressing. Like, so it's not as bad as I think it is, but like, I know it's pretty bad. So
I appreciate your honesty, man. And you know why? I find it really refreshing because I'm a drummer, right? And it can get very stressful. I'll be honest with you, especially when you're rehearsing and especially when you have more moving parts other than just music, you know, when there's production involved, clicks involved, all of that stuff involved, it can get really stressful focusing on how to do it right. So I guess I'm curious for you, and I think you already sort of explained it, but was it like a moment when you had like just such a stressful show that you just the next day you decided, hey, fuck it, I'm just gonna do whatever? Or was it like a progressive thing, like over a couple of months you just decided, hey, why don't we just approach this more carelessly or at least more relaxed? You get what I'm saying? Like, was it like overnight or was it like a gradual thing?
I think we started like this mentality like literally a year ago. Exactly a year ago, we were on tour with Between the Buried and Me, and they're one of the best prog bands of all time.
Yeah.
Like they're perfect live. And we just are, we just like to get fucking drunk like all the time. Um, and it wasn't really a conscious thing. It was just like, let's just fucking get drunk before the show today. And we did that at the beginning of the tour. We just started the tour off like drunk as hell. And then we were like, dude, that was really fun. Let's do it again. And that whole tour was just kind of us drunk as fuck the entire time. And then we went to Europe like a week after and just continued it.
Yeah.
And then a week after, like we were in Europe for a month. And then a week after that, we did another tour with Dance Gavin Dance and continued it all the way up through Christmas. And yeah, we were just drunk that whole fall and winter, the whole time. So
I love
it's
it.
just at that point, like that's when we kind of just stopped like giving a fuck entirely about everything.
Yeah.
About like, like, oh, what's like professional to like do, or like how, what kind of look are we giving off? It's like, like if you look at our socials now, like we just don't give a shit. Fucking like I'll post anything and just be like, listen, like come to our fucking shows, buy our fucking merch, give us your money.
Or
Like,
don't, whatever you want. Kind
I
of.
mean, no, but don't not do it. Definitely give us your money. And it's just the most honest thing we can do. It's just like we want to tour, we want to get drunk, we want you at the shows, buy our shit. It's sick. We're really good at making music. Maybe not so much playing it, but like fucking, we're good at making it. So it kind of just the more like honest we became, the easier it is, and the more I don't know, people just it's funny to us at
Yeah.
least, So
I find it fascinating, and I wanted to ask you this real quick because I'm curious. Do you feel like that whole I don't want to call it careless because it's not. It's just you just being more relaxed, in my opinion, with your approach to music. Do you feel like it's very beneficial in the style of music that you're in? And I mean, because when I think of like the pop scene, for example, which I'm part of, everything is super planned out. I mean, to the last drop. Everything regarding the artist, the image, the performance, all that, for the most part, is planned out. Do you feel like that, approach to music, kind of just like, hey, we're honest, come to our show, buy our shit, watch us have fun on stage? Is that unique to your style of music, or do you feel like other styles could benefit from that, if that makes sense?
we're really like it's unique in our shit because no one else does that.
Yeah.
And they're they have their own way of doing things, I guess. But we're really kind of just taking a note from the rappers because
Yeah. Good point.
we have like a whole team that like does our shit for us, and fucking like it's their job to do that. It's not fucking our job. Our job is to make music,
Right.
play it. Like literally that is it. And it is their job to do all the other bullshit, which I could not give a fuck about, or don't even like put it on my plate because I don't care. So they handle all the organization shit, and it gets done. And then like all the rappers like just don't give a fuck about anything, and they
Yeah.
have a team that does their shit. So really, we just took a note from the rappers because they're fucking hilarious, and like I just love how just honest they are, and so yeah, that's kind of where it all comes from. Is like because they're like the real rock stars.
Yeah.
Um,
At least the ones from like that we recognize, like the '80s style rock stars that used to not give a fuck and rock
yeah,
and
like
roll.
that was like that was like the last time we had rock stars, because the rock
Yeah.
stars today, like Dave Grohl is fucking like the biggest rock star we have, and fucking he's just he's not like out there fucking not giving a fuck, like he's very much giving a fuck.
Yeah.
And then we got Lil Pump, who really doesn't give a shit about fucking anything.
Yeah.
Knocking over tables in his green room and just like, it's hard as shit. I really fuck with it. So that's some real rock star shit, and I'm about it. So
Dude, that's badass. How many tables have you knocked down? I'm curious.
none yet, but we were actually gonna start this challenge called the Fuck Shit Up Challenge, and it was gonna start with me you know, listening to like our new single and eating a bowl of cereal. And then when the shit drops, like I'm just talking about how much I love cereal so much, like while it's building up or whatever. And then when it drops, I fucking like grab the bowl of cereal and just toss it at the wall behind me and then scream new levels, new devils, 10, 12, bitch. And and then just encourage people to like break shit.
Huh.
Um, and then the end of the challenge was going to be us smashing guitars because we just have entirely too many because they just keep sending them to us. And so what the fuck are we going to do with all these? Yeah, but I think we'll probably break a lot of guitars because we just have too many. So,
Dude, I love it. There's something about your approach to music and the way you're about the just breaking guitars and everything that I find very appealing. And I wanna explore that a little bit further if I get the chance. But Tim, I want to know a little bit more about you, just because I know that, some of my fans are going to be introduced to you, but I'm sure that a lot of your fans are probably going to want to know more about you. And I just want to sort of randomly, very shamelessly transition into that. Just be like, hey, Tim, I personally want to know more about you, like your upbringing, how this whole music thing came to be. How did you start with music and all that?
um, so my mom is Chinese, and I don't know if any of the listeners are Asian or have Asian parents, but that's a whole thing. An Asian mom is really tough. And she had me playing violin since I was 3. And I was forced to play violin every day, like practice 2 hours a day for my entire childhood. And I fucking hated it. It was torture. I fucking hated it. Like what 5-year-old like is in an orchestra? You know what I mean? Like
Oh
um
man, ah,
and so by the time that I was 10, my dad just, I don't know, brought out a guitar from his office. I had no idea he played guitar. He's been playing guitar his entire
really?
life and just didn't play for the first 10
Like
years of my
never brought it
life.
out in public with you?
Yeah, I had no fucking idea.
Wow.
And when I was 10, he brought out a guitar and started playing it, and I was so fascinated by it. And I was like, let me try it because I thought I had 7 years of violin under my belt at this time, and I thought I'd be good. I was not good at all. And because of that, I was just like, yo, like, I want to learn guitar. I think I could get good at it. Plus, it was like a way cooler instrument
Yeah.
as opposed to like a violin because like I was about to go into middle school and fuck, I just started skateboarding and violin was not cool. Um,
Can you imagine that combo though of a violin skateboarder? That would be
yeah,
interesting to see.
yeah. That's what I was doing at the time, but I didn't like that look.
Right.
So I switched to guitar, but I still had to play violin. I was still playing violin up until I was 18, but I started learning guitar, and my dad taught me, the basics, like some chords and etc. And then he got me into Black Sabbath, and that was like the first like guitar shit I was ever learning was like Iron Man, um, on some like real dad shit. And
Yeah.
then he showed me Jimi Hendrix, and I was like, holy fuck, I love Hendrix. So I was just like the biggest Hendrix fanboy, like for like, my early on guitar playing. But yeah, and then in middle school I like got into fucking like screamo and shit and like Chiodos and etc. And then like a year later, like in 8th grade, I got into like the hard shit, like Job for Cowboy and fucking Black Dahlia and Whitechapel and I guess like deathcore, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was like really into that. And in high school, I just really liked death metal a lot. And
I was gonna ask real quick, what got you into death metal. That's actually something I always get fascinated by, because I think when you're in high school, right, there are very specific ways that you go in terms of what you like about music, right? Specific kids go in specific routes. But I find that the metal scene, deathcore scene, and all that has a very large audience, especially when you're that age. You know what I mean? And what I've always been curious about, because I didn't go that route, but I had tons of friends that did. I'm curious, like, what about deathcore was it that attracted you?
I mean, it's just like the hard shit. Like when you're that age, you just want to be like a fucking angsty teen, and it's just hard as fuck. You know, it's hard and heavy.
Yeah.
Which, you know, to this day, like right now, the kids, I don't think they're fucking into death metal. What they are into is the hard ass SoundCloud rap, which is the same shit. It's like,
yeah,
you know, when X started screaming over beats and stuff, it was just like, yo, like that's hard as fuck. And like now we've got like Rico Nasty and fucking like all sorts of like super hard shit in rap. And like I'm definitely about that. I think that's awesome, and just like pushing the culture forward and etc. That like combining those two genres, not necessarily death metal and rap, but like, you know, hard shit and rap.
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like an angsty thing, I guess. But yeah, and then in high school, we started Polyphia, and then here we are today. So
How long have you had Polyphia running? Like it's been about what, 5-6 years or so?
we've been touring for like 4 or 5 years, but
Yeah.
it technically started when I was in 11th grade in 2011. Yeah, I mean, we were like a band in high school that like didn't do anything, you know. and then out of high school, like my parents were like, "You need to fucking go to school." And I was like, "Okay." So I like went to UNT and like didn't pick a major or anything. It was like undecided, and realized I fucking hate school, and decided to like really really do the band seriously. And so I just like lied to my parents and told them I was in school
Oh, no way. I
when I
love that.
wasn't, and I dropped out. And then I dropped out so I could get a job, and I was like graphic designing at the time. And like I learned graphic design and then quit that first job because it was kind of like a fucking like bullshit job. It was like at a t-shirt printing place. We were like printing our own shirts at this t-shirt place that we worked at.
Yeah.
And I learned graphic design there, and like got good enough to get an actual job at a design firm when I was 19. And I worked there for 6 months, like on a salary and on the 9 to 5 shit. And that was some like, oh my God, I hate my life and I want to fucking kill myself.
Yeah.
And so I quit that, and told I just lied to my parents. I was like, yeah, I'm working and I'm in school. But when I quit that job, I came home that day and I told my dad, like, hey, I'm not in school and I just quit my job because we're about to ask the internet for $30,000, because we did an Indiegogo campaign.
Right.
That was like the first time we had ever really done anything. And then we like doubled the goal.
Wow. 60 grand?
Yeah, something like
Wow.
that. But it happened very quickly. Yeah, and then, you know, it all kind of just snowballed. I mean, I guess it didn't snowball. It's been like a snowball uphill,
Yeah.
pushing a snowball up a hill. But yeah, here we are today.
Dude, I love it. I love your story, and I love how you have basically, well, actually, here's one of the things that I love about you so far. It seems to me, and again, I could be wrong, and you can correct me if you want, but it seems to me like you always subconsciously know what you want, and you're very comfortable in making choices to get what you want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And I love it. I mean, it goes along with your music, and, you know, like, I don't give a fuck, so I'm just going to play whatever I want kind of thing. I'm curious, though, was that always your attitude and approach to life? And I ask this because I know that a lot of musicians, specifically ones that listen to this show and other people that I have met or worked with, it's a skill that takes a while to learn or to really feel comfortable with, because it's so easy to choose the more safer route, you know, the go to school, kind of get a degree, get a job, all of that, while maybe pursuing music on the side. And there's not saying there's anything wrong with that, but your approach was very much direct. And by that, I mean, you didn't like the job. So rather than wait to figure it out. You were like, nah, not for me. I'm leaving. And that to a lot of people seems crazy. Why do you feel like why were you comfortable making that choice?
I mean, I wanted to kill myself. Like, it was very funny. It was like, I keep doing this and eventually do that. Or I just stop. And I remember that morning I texted the senior designer, because our creative director was a fucking dickhead asshole who like wasn't even good. And I texted the senior designer. I was like, dude, should I just like quit? And he was like, man, like I've been working here for like 8 years. Like if you're gonna quit, do it.
Wow.
And I was just like, all right, bet. So I showed up to work that day, and I fucking like went to the VP's office, and I fucking like knocked on his shit. I was like, listen, can I talk to you? He's like, yeah, what's up? And I was like, this is going to be my last day. Actually, I'm leaving after we finish this conversation. I didn't even do a 2 weeks notice or anything.
Whoa.
He was like, oh, what happened? I was just like, I'm just really unhappy. And he was like, oh. And I was like, yeah, so I'm going to go. I got in my car, and the entire way home, I just bumped Drake's We Made It, because that was like when that came out.
I love that.
And I was just like, holy shit, I have the rest of my fucking life to look forward to now. And I was so stoked. I went home and I just took a big nap.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, like, like I kind of always knew that like that I wanted to like, play guitar and like do music. Like at that time it was just like, all right, well, I should stop fucking wasting my time with bullshit that doesn't matter and just do the things that do matter. So
yeah. Okay, and this leads me to another question that I'm kind of just coming up with. Is that the reason? And again, it's obviously very subjective, and anything could be explained in any specific way. But do you feel like that's the reason why your band has been successful in the way it's been successful? And I say this because there's thousands and thousands of stories that I have heard personally from people, specifically musicians who, do the same thing, sort of one day just get fed up with everything, quit their job. And, unfortunately, nothing works out right away. For you, it seemed like obviously it didn't happen overnight, but it happened relatively quickly after you decided that this is what you didn't want to do. This other thing is what you wanted to do. Do you think that attitude contributes to why Polyphia has done so well?
I mean, yeah, the attitude for sure. But at the time when I had quit, like we were still like, we had, like I was doing the band and all this shit. Like it wasn't like we'd just like started or something at that point in time. It was like well
it was in high school,
its way. Yeah, I mean, it was like well on its way to like, all right, well, fuck this shit. I'm out because I've got much more promising things over here. So yeah, I mean, but definitely the attitude and I just like I remember like telling them at work like, yo, like I want to be fucking like doing important shit, and they were just like, get back to work. Like
yeah.
I
love that shit, dude. I love that you just stuck to your guns, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to do that. And I'm always fascinated when someone like you at a relatively young age has the guts to basically go after that and be like, hey, I already have this thing going for me, and why not just go all in? You know what I mean? Like that always does boggle my mind why so many of us, and I always include myself in that too, because I've had my moments too of doubt and stuff in the past, how we will always make an excuse as to why not to go all in into something. And I'm reminded by your story, that dude who you called, who I think was your manager, your supervisor, I believe, who you texted, and he was just like, dude, I've been here for a long time. And you get that cold feet over time. You know what I mean? Like you just don't want to do anything if you don't just fucking jump in and do something.
Yeah, I've always thought that like that there's like, what the fuck is the point in having a plan B? Just do the plan A. Like that's it. So like there's nothing else to like talk about. Like they just do it. There really hasn't ever been like any other like option.
Good. I'm glad that that's the way you viewed your musical approach. So you did this Indiegogo campaign, right? You raised your money, and that was for an album, or what was that for?
That was for our first record. And then like shortly after we got it funded, like we were in the studio in Michigan for an entire month and a half or something. And that was the first time that I'd ever left home for music. And we came home with this record that is, pretty amazing. If I do say the same myself. And I showed it to my dad, and my dad was so fucking stoked, and he was just like, he was really pissed when I told him that I had quit my job. And,
I can imagine. Damn.
but my dad, like when we went to Michigan for that first record and came back and showed it to him, he was like really stoked on it. He was like, he like started believing in it then. And then I got the support of my dad, which was really cool.
I'm curious. So you made this album, and when was the first time that you hit some sort of real success? And obviously real can be subjective, but for you at least, when was the first time after that whole event that you felt like, all right, we made a good move, or it's starting to happen now?
I mean, really, that was the point. Before that, we had like one viral YouTube video, and like viral at the time was like, oh, we got 1 million views, which was like, wow, you know, because we were just a local band, like pre-selling tickets and shit, to like doing like pay to play shows.
The worst. Those are the worst. I hate those.
Yeah, but then, like, that's what we did. We did so much of that. Like every weekend, we were selling tickets to like shows, and so we could go play out and try and be a band. And then, you know, we did one thing right, which was a good video. That video, like, you know, got 1 million views, and we are like, holy shit! And that, because of that, like, we had enough hype per se to do the Indiegogo.
Yeah.
And then when the Indiegogo like worked, that was when we were like, oh shit, it's real now. And then we went to go make, and like when we went to make the album, like we told everybody like, hey, we need this money to make an album. We didn't have any material, and we were like very afraid that we weren't going to be able to do an album. We had no idea that like we could write that much music, because we'd never made an album before. Like we'd only had like an EP of like 4 or 5 songs. And so we just got in the studio and did it, and it came out amazing, you know.
Dude, that's crazy. So you basically went at it without having any sort of concrete plan in a way. And
I mean, the plan was to make an album. We just from A to B, we knew where we needed to go. We didn't know how to get there, but it was a figure it out like along the way kind of thing.
Oh man. I can I just say this? I love your approach, dude. I really do, because you're exactly what, you know, the best musicians I can think of in a way behave the same way you do. You know, they kind of know what they're looking for, what they're hearing in their head, something like that. And rather than fixating on, all right, I gotta, you know, do A, B, C, and D, they're just like, fuck it, I gotta get to the finish line, so I'm just gonna start and see what happens. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
It's a figured out process, you know.
Yeah. And so, okay. So then you made this fucking great album. You had that viral video beforehand. The band, though, I know you guys met in high school and all that. Is it still the original members from the very beginning?
Scott is, and we've never had a bassist before Clay, so Clay is. And then Clay Ashelman, our drummer, is a new addition as of, I think, 3 years ago. So at this point in time, he's pretty like just solid in for the rest of our lives kind of shit. But yeah, the only, you know, he's the only non-original, I guess. So 3 out of 4 are original.
I'm curious, like when it comes to what's the word that I'm looking for? The vibe that comes with the band. Has everyone always sort of agreed with each other? Because it seems like you guys get along really well. And when you play with tons and tons of bands, you sort of, you know, you recognize that some bands are very much more like business oriented, meaning everyone kind of does their part and leave each other alone. Some are very family oriented. Everyone kind of knows each other. Some are brother like. I'm curious what your vibe is as a band, like with each other. Do you guys argue a lot? Do you guys agree a lot? Do you guys just hang out? And like you were saying, you guys, you know, wreck shit up and you guys party all the time. So I'm curious, like the dynamic. And how it's changed since high school. You know what I mean? Like how it's changed or if it stayed the same.
Yeah, I mean, basically in high school, like Scott, the other guitar player, Scott's a big mama's boy. He loves his mom. And we fuck with it. I mean, I love Scott's mom. She's great. But Scott is just a huge fucking mama's boy. He always has been. He still is to this day. But obviously he's a grown-ass man now who does grown-ass man things. But in high school, he very much was like, dude, I can't fucking practice at 9 on a Wednesday kind of shit. And it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, let's just do this. And so that entire time we had to like kind of like wean him off that, to the point where, it was like very difficult to get him to do stuff. And then, once everything started kind of happening, like around the Indiegogo and we started traveling, then it was just like, okay, like this is what I'm fucking doing with my life. This is like we're trying to make this a career, so like everything that we need to do, I'm here to do, and I'm about it. And so that took a lot of effort to do. So he was kind of, it was like difficult to do, but we got him there. And then with Gober, Clay Gober, our bass player, he's always in some bullshit. Like he's like the kind of guy that fucking a shitty rain cloud just follows around.
Oh no.
And so there's always some bullshit going on with him. But like we work it out all the time. And then Ashelman is pretty just uh good to go on most things. But like at this point in time, like after that Indiegogo, we started touring, and we did fucking the worst, shittiest goddamn tours ever. And we did like 10 of them that were just bullshit, like just like paying our dues, like touring in a shitty van that would break down in the middle of the winter, and fucking like,
Oh man. The
like just
worst.
playing to
The
like
worst.
nobody and like being broke as fuck, like, and just it was awful. And we
What was
got
the worst
really
show?
jaded. The worst tour we ever did was with Slaves, and Johnny Craig's band, and like they added us to the tour like a week before it happened, so we weren't on any of the flyers, so nobody even knew like we were playing the fucking shows. And like they don't draw shit anyways, so fucking, there was no one at the shows. And like fucking like 3 days till the end of the tour, our shit broke down. Like when we were supposed to go into Canada, we were up north, and it's like December. And we were
Oh
supposed to
man.
go into Canada, and our shit broke down. And I just called our manager, and I was like, "Can we go home?" He's like, "Yeah, just whatever, fuck it." So we did. So that was the worst shit we've ever done. But I mean, we just did a lot of shitty touring, and we got really, really jaded. And it became a thing where it was like, like fuck this shit, like, because like like I had a girlfriend at the time who like really hated when I was gone, and I was just super fucking jaded. I was like, I fucking hate touring. Like, I don't want to do any of that shit. I just want to fucking like write music, and that's it. And so the attitude towards being in the band at that time was like really bad. Like we all, like to hang out with each other, but nobody likes to fucking tour. We would take these tours and then just talk shit about the tour. Like,
Yeah.
why the fuck are we touring? Like, why are we doing this? Like we should stay home and fucking write music and do YouTube videos because that's what we're good at. And because we wanted to be an internet thing. Um,
Yeah.
because like we like there's plenty of like revenue to be made on the internet. Like like money was good before we started touring. And then touring happened and we became broke as fuck. And so we were all really mad at that. And then once like, we had, I guess, paid the dues and shit started like popping off, like, when we tour, it became fun again, and we kind of we really tried to get rid of that jaded attitude like 3 years ago when Clay Asherman, our drummer, came. And since Clay's been in the band, like this, it's all kind of moved towards this I don't give a shit attitude, because it's just like I don't need to care this much anymore. Like we've been doing this for a
Yeah.
long time, and we don't like I would rather just, like not feel angry about things anymore. I'd rather not care so much to the point where I'm pissed and stressed, and I'd rather just enjoy my life because it kicks fucking ass.
Yeah.
And like just like I'm like a firm believer in just like like just do the right thing, like and like good shit will happen kind of stuff. And it's just
Yeah.
like if I like don't like I don't need to feel any sort of like negative ways towards really anything, like at all, like
Yeah.
anymore. I don't have to. Why? And there's just too much energy to be spent on that when I could just, not. And so that's kind of where we are now. That's the dynamic of the group now. It's just like, hey, this is our job, and we tour like 9 months out of the year, and like, oh fuck, we're on tour again, but let's we're here, might as well get drunk, right? Um, so that's kind of really been the attitude, like as of the last year. But it's we have a lot of fun. We go all around the world and fucking play sold out shows, and um, like there's just adoring fans just everywhere, and it's amazing. And we love talking to the fans, hanging out, and like the people who support us, and it's fucking sick.
Yeah.
So it's just I have no complaints anymore.
It
There's
sounds
there's
dope,
there's
man.
nothing to complain about. And shit is real tight over here.
Did you feel like those first tours were pointless then?
Oh yeah, I mean, like in a way, yes. Like in a way, really a small percentage, it was good to lay the groundwork and get out there and do it. But really, like we could have just done it smarter. Like every internet sensation, fucking, Lil Xan becomes a fucking, blow up celebrity thing overnight, and then he sells out every date of his tour. Like we could have fucking just grinded on the internet and then skipped all the bullshit. But it was, in a way, yes, it was good. But for the most part, no. Waste of time.
I mean, I love that you're very honest about that. I mean, sometimes those early choices, I mean, you're right. I think had you known, better in a way, you would have made the better choice of just focusing on what you guys were good at. But something tells me that you sort of had to figure that out by kind of grinding through the shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's all a figured out process. The whole thing, everything was. So
Yeah, dude. I love it, man. So, tell me a little bit more about this current tour that you're on, because you guys are basically becoming super mega rock stars, in my opinion. Rock stars that don't give a shit and that are just living life and having fun with everything that you guys are doing. You guys are constantly releasing really cool music, and you have a new album out that came out this year. So I'm curious about, this new album, like what the inspiration was behind it, or if maybe like the way you approach music has changed over time. So I'm curious, this new album you guys are promoting, what was the inspiration behind it?
yeah, it's the album's fucking amazing. It's definitely the best shit we've ever made, and it's definitely the best shit that exists. Um, we it's really good. We worked with a lot of hip hop producers. I live in LA now, and
Nice.
like I just do a lot of session work and shit for like hip hop and stuff, and like all my friends are like fucking big name hip hop producers and shit, and fucking so we just had them on our instrumental record, and we made some dope shit, and basically like it's like really trap hip hop inspired, where like
Yeah.
I'll write a riff and then give it to like 10 different producers and see what they all want to do with it. And then like they send it back, and so me and Scott like finish the guitars and kind of pick and choose from the stems of 10 different producers and kind of Frankenstein a really cool part together, and then give it to the Clays, their rhythm section, and then they kind of take these like really intricate hip hop beats and play it on real drums and real bass,
Huh.
and obviously add like the flair of a real musician to it, and like edit parts here and there to make it work, and then the production is just insane. So like that's kind of this record, and then obviously we've got like a bunch of like really sick features, and on this record we have our first vocal feature.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, Kuko is the vocal feature. And I don't know if any of your listeners are familiar with him, but they will be very soon, because my homie Kuko is like about to blow the fuck up. Do you know Billie Eilish?
No, I don't actually, not personally.
She is a huge hype name right now. Do you know Khalid?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so like Billy, Khalid, and Kuko all do shit together, and like it's just really on some fucking radio shit.
Dude.
And Kuko's just about to be on the radio, like just everywhere here in the next year.
Dude, I love it.
Just like dude's blowing up worldwide, like on some fucking Drake shit. So he's the only vocal feature we've ever had, and that's on this record. So it's definitely a cool vibe of a record.
What made you want to include that vocal feature? If you've never had it before and this is the first time, I'm curious, like what made you want to do that?
I mean, we've always wanted to do vocals, like work with vocalists. It's just like I don't want like some fucking teeny weeny bullshit singer on our shit. Um, and it was just like, if we're gonna do this, like we need like somebody who's like actually famous.
Yeah.
And like me and Gugo have been friends for a bit, and like then he started blowing up, and I was like, bro, like you want to be the first one? And he was like, fuck yeah. And so we did it. And yeah, so like it was just like only deserving of someone who's like actually lit. So
Yeah. I fucking love it. I love your approach to that. You know what I'm curious about? I have noticed that a lot of your latest videos, you do have a lot of trap elements and more of that hip hop style that you've been talking about. And I fucking love it because I personally have never heard music combined like that, you know, with the prog rock kind of style, maybe melodic a little bit with hip hop or trap behind it. And it sounds almost like it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I never thought of it before, but it makes sense. And so I'm curious for you, when you pick from the stems, you know, when you get 10 submissions or whatever from producers, what do you look for in a hip hop beat or like in a sort of electronic trap beat that you guys can use? Like what do you specifically look for?
I mean, really, does it groove hard? Does it bump? And yeah, I mean, because like me and Scott produce too, and so like I'll do the first draft and Scott will do another draft, or vice versa, depending on who wrote what riff.
Yeah.
So we have our versions of the beat, and then like we just want, you know, other input. And so really, it's not even so much like what are we looking for. It's just like what's sick and like which parts can we use. Like, or like if this part is kind of weaker, like do we like these, you know, extra percussion things here or whatever the fuck, like to make it like cohesively sick. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's more of like a specific, like, okay, like let's just dissect this beat and talk about it thing, more so than me trying to like generally vaguely describe like what it is that we do, you know?
Nah, I love it, dude. I honestly love your vibe and I love what you're about because you're kind of what I encourage other people to be like, you know, sort of rather than think so much about everything, just be who you want to be. You know what I mean? Like it seems to me after talking with you for a bit, you've always known what you wanted. You've always known who you wanted to be. You kind of always know where you want to end up and you never second guess yourself. You're just like, fuck it. If I got to break shit, I got to break shit. If I got to grind it, I'll grind it. I just got to get there. And you maneuver really well. You know what I mean? Like I'm really impressed, dude,
I
honestly.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just realized like there's like fucking no point in being anyone but me. You know, like the most me I could ever be at this point in time. And there's no, I think we all are, you know, everybody's just like really kind of just figuring themselves out and just finding the things that they like about themselves and just that's what it is. And like no shame, like this is what the fuck we are, you
And
know?
being unapologetic about it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very unapologetic. I mean, I don't give a fuck. Like it's just like I like me. It's sick, you know?
Yeah.
So
Fuck yeah, dude. I love it, dude. I feel like you and I need to party together at some point.
let's
'Cause
do it,
if
man. Let's get fucking
let's
drunk.
let's fucking do it, man. Awesome, man. Honestly, to kind of wrap things up, man, I love everything you had to say. I'm curious, like, what's like your ideal place to see you and your band? Like, what? Obviously, you're already killing it, but I'm curious, like, what would be the absolute maximum that you want to get to?
I mean, there's no max. I definitely want to be. I definitely want to be rich as fuck, and you know, a goddamn celebrity. But you know, like that's funny to even say that out loud. But like, I don't care. Like, if it happens, it's more so just like actualize it into reality, kind of thing. Like manifest it,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I definitely want to do that, and just like do ballin' ass shit and have a fucking dope ass life. You know, to the point where like we're just like actually, you know, because right now like our whole stick is like we say we're not only the biggest but also the best metal band in the world. Obviously Metallica exists and so does Slipknot, but you know, fuck them. Like no, it's us. We're not even metal. But we'll say that we are because fucking, you know, metal fans get really mad about that. They're very very attached to their little niche genre of like, oh, don't say that you're metal. You're not metal. You fucking, you know. So they get really upset about it. But you know, one day we actually might be. So you know, like it's just kind of just because at this point in time, like all of our fans like recognize it, even though it's just a big meme at this point. But they say the shit. You know, they're like, I can't wait to go see not only the biggest but also the best metal band in the world.
I
And
love
like
it.
it's the dialogue around the culture that we've built. And then maybe one day we know it might actually be that. So who fucking knows? I would love if that could happen if we have Metallica open, you know?
Holy shit.
Yeah, one day. Why not?
One day, man. Awesome, dude. I love it. I love that that's your attitude. And you, it's one of those things, like someone has to be the best always. You know what I mean? That can always be challenged and can always be gained. And so might as well be you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Somebody fucking wrote like some bullshit on our shit one time and said like, music's not a competition. And I just hit him back from the like Polyphia account and was just like, yeah, it is, and we won.
Oh, dude. Oh man, I would pay to see you do like a coaching session. You know what I mean? Like your answer to everything would be just like, just fucking do it. You know, like just
Yeah.
there's no explanation to it. You just kind of just figure it out. And I love that, dude. I fucking
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
it's fun stuff. But just like I guess to anyone listening, like you can be a piece of shit like me, or like I think the important thing is that like actually not being a piece of shit is good, but to really just like I said, like manifest what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like figure out what you want and manifest it, and like don't like you said, be unapologetic about it.
Unapologetic. Yep.
Because like fuck doing anything that like you don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree. 100%, dude. Well, thank you so much, man. I think you're honestly super entertaining. And I mean it though. I'm like want to party with this guy and I want to learn from you, dude, because you're insane at what you do. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing all the stuff that you've got going on. And if someone wants to find your band, obviously we've talked about Polyphia a lot. And I'm sure if you just Google it, and you'll be the top result. But, obviously formalities are formalities. Where can people find your stuff, dude?
Everywhere. Just Google Polyphia. It's just like there's no Polyphia is not a real word. You know what I mean? We're the only like our SEO is wonderful. Fucking you can't search Polyphia and the only thing that shows up is Polyphia. So just all you gotta do is Google it. And Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Apple Music, and Spotify, and all that bullshit, and the internet.
Dude, secretly brilliant. Find a word that no one has, that's never been used before. Love it. Fucking love it. Thank you so much, Tim. You're the best, honestly.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Tim. I know that I definitely did. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, I love Tim's mentality. I love that he knows what he wants and he doesn't apologize for what he wants. And I think it's very apparent in this conversation. As I mentioned before, it's very different from some of my other interviews. If you've been around this show for a little while, I think you'll get that vibe right off the back. It's not the same as before, but I think it's very necessary for us to hear people like Tim, people who know what they want and they're unapologetic about it. And look, maybe you act differently. Maybe you want different things, but I think the important takeaway from this episode, if you're trying to start a band, if you're doing your music thing, maybe you already have some momentum and you're taking it to that next level, I want to definitely nail it in that it's important to always remain true to who you are and what you want. I'm definitely someone who loves to have a plan, but there have been so many times in my career and my path where I've had to throw away the plan and just figure things out and remind myself of what I want and just go after it. And I think Tim did a great job of reminding me that. And I want to go ahead and extend that to you, the listener, to remind yourself, hey, it's okay to have all these plans. It's okay to go about your life whichever way you want, but don't apologize for it. Be who you want to be and go after what you want. So as I mentioned before, if you enjoyed this interview, definitely consider subscribing. I do this every week. I bring on the coolest musicians that I can find so I can explore their mindset and hopefully inspire you to do the same.